fabled heat, where magic meets desire. Subscribe to ignite the fantasy.
The dust tasted of regret. It coated my tongue, clung to the roof of my mouth, mirroring the grit in my soul. For 20 years I de-scavenged the blasted lands, picking at the bones of a world shattered by the godswar. 20 years of hunger, of cold, of watching good people succumb to despair, or worse, to the roaming bands of raiders. 20 years since they took him. My brother Liam, stolen by the Shadow Court as a tithe, a sickeningly polite term for sacrifice to their monstrous patrons. I'd been 10, he 14, too young to fight back, too naive to understand the true horror. Now I was hardened, a survivor, and I'd found a rumor, a whisper amongst the desperate, a way to bargain with the very creatures who'd stolen my life. The citadel of thorns rose from the ashen plains like a skeletal finger accusing the heavens. Obsidian towers, twisted and barbed, clawed at the perpetually overcast sky. The air thrummed with a low, discordant energy that set my teeth on edge and made the hairs on my arms stand rigid. It wasn't a place built for living things. It repelled life. I reached the immense, thorn-choked gates after days of travel, pushing through the desolate landscape with a single-minded determination born of decades of grief. 2 guards, their forms shifting and blurring at the edges as if not fully anchored to this reality, regarded me with cold, predatory amusement. They weren't beautiful, not in any way a human would understand. Their skin was like polished stone, their eyes pools of liquid shadow, and their mouths too wide, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. A mortal come to negotiate, one rasped, the voice like dry leaves skittering across stone. I swallowed the dust and the fear, forcing myself to meet his gaze. I seek Lord Valerius and Lord Kalen and Lord Reese. Listing the names felt strange. The whispers had described them as a trinity of power, a collective consciousness ruling the Shadow Court. 3 lords, bound by ancient magic, each a reflection of the others, yet distinct in their cruelty. The guards exchanged a silent look, audacious. Very well, you may pass, but be warned, mortal. Time flows differently within these walls, and hope dies swiftly. The citadel's interior was a labyrinth of shadows and echoing silence. The architecture was deliberately disorienting, hallways that twisted back on themselves, staircases that led nowhere, chambers that seemed to shift and rearrange with every blink. The scent was overpowering, a cloying sweetness overlaid with the metallic tang of blood and something ancient, something wrong. Finally, I was led to a vast chamber, lit by braziers filled with a black, viscous fluid that emitted no heat, only a chilling dread. And there they were. Valerius was all sharp angles and controlled power. He sat upon a throne of woven shadows, his silver hair cascading down his back like liquid moonlight. His eyes, the color of a winter storm, assessed me with a glacial indifference. Kalen leaned against a pillar, a study in languid grace. His dark hair was threaded with strands of obsidian, and his skin had a subtle, almost shimmering quality. A cruel smile played on his lips. Reese, however, was the most unsettling. He didn't sit so much as meld with the shadows, his form constantly flickering, making it difficult to focus on him. He felt like a predator, patiently waiting for the opportune moment to strike. They radiated an aura of immense, suffocating power. I, in my worn leather armor and dust-caked boots, felt utterly insignificant. So Valerius's voice was like the chime of ice. The little sister comes seeking a bargain, for the brother we claimed so long ago. I didn't flinch, couldn't afford to. I know what you are, what you want. I'm not here to offer trinkets or servitude. I'm here for a deal. Kalen chuckled, a low, melodic sound that sent shivers down my spine. Direct, I admire that. But what could a mortal like you possibly offer us that would be worth disturbing our peaceful existence? I offer a wish. If you sign this contract, you will grant my wish, anything. I held out the scroll, painstakingly crafted from the hide of a shadow beast, a creature rumored to be immune to their magic. It was a gamble, but I'd spent years studying the lore of the Shadow Court, searching for loopholes, for weaknesses. Valerius's eyes narrowed. He gestured, and Reese detached himself from the shadows, gliding towards me with an unnatural fluidity. He stopped inches from my face, his breath cold against my skin. You are a fool to think you can bind us, mortal. We are older than time itself. Your paltry contracts mean nothing. Perhaps, I conceded, but the contract isn't for you. It's for the collective. The ancient laws state that the 3 must agree to any binding pact, and if even one hesitates. Reese's eyes flashed with anger, but he retreated, returning to his shadowy corner. Valerius's expression was unreadable. Kalen, however, was intrigued. Interesting, a challenge, very well, we accept your terms. Sign the contract, state your wish. My hand trembled as I offered them a quill fashioned from a raven's feather. They observed me with detached curiosity as I signed my name in flowing script. The ink, a shimmering black, seemed to absorb the light around it. Then came the moment, the culmination of 20 years of pain and longing. I looked at each of them in turn, letting the weight of my intent settle upon them. I wish to be powerful enough to kill you. The chamber erupted in chaos. Reese lunged, his form solidifying into a terrifying creature of shadow and claw. Kalen unleashed a wave of dark energy that slammed into me, throwing me against a pillar. Valerius's eyes blazed with fury. "You dare," he roared, "you insult us with your arrogance." But the magic was already working. I could feel it coursing through my veins, rewriting my very being. It wasn't a gentle infusion of power, it was brutal, agonizing. My bones cracked and reformed, my muscles tore and rebuilt themselves. My senses sharpened, expanding to encompass a realm beyond human comprehension. The pain was unbearable, but I clung to consciousness, fueled by the burning rage that had sustained me for 2 decades. The power settled, leaving me gasping for breath, every inch of my body screaming in protest. I looked down at my hands, no longer the calloused hands of a scavenger. They were now something else. Veins of obsidian pulsed beneath my skin, and my fingernails had elongated into razor-sharp claws. But it wasn't just physical, it was a connection. I could feel their minds, their thoughts, their fears, a terrifying, exhilarating intimacy. And I realized with a dawning horror that my wish hadn't just given me power over them, it had bound me to them. Kalen's voice, laced with a newfound respect, echoed in my mind. "Clever mortal, you've given yourself a weapon and a cage." Valerius, though still furious, couldn't mask the surprise. "The magic has integrated. You are now a part of the Shadow Court, a paradox, a weapon wielded by the very hand she seeks to destroy." Reese simply watched me, his shadowed eyes burning with a strange, possessive light. "Interesting, very interesting. You smell of defiance and something else, something I want to explore." I hadn't expected this. I hadn't understood the full implications of my wish. I thought I'd be free to strike them down, to avenge Liam. But now I was trapped, bound to these monstrous beings by the very power I'd sought to wield against them. And as I looked into their eyes, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. A dangerous, intoxicating game of power, desire, and betrayal had begun. And I, the little sister who dared to challenge the Shadow Court, was now a player.